All right, everyone. So I'm really, really excited to teach you guys Othello. I love teaching Shakespeare, and this play in particular is, in fact, my favorite Shakespeare play. This is the tragedy of Othello. It was written circa 1603. Circa is a fancy word for about. You may see this abbreviated with a C and a period. We say circa because we don't exactly know when it was written and then first performed and then finally published. So 1603, it is considered one of the four great tragedies of Shakespeare's work, along with Hamlet, Macbeth, and King Lear. If you take honors your sophomore year, you read Hamlet. The AP English Lit class reads Macbeth. And if you take the Shakespeare class, then you read King Lear. So there is a chance for you to read all four of the great tragedies while you're still here at Lincoln High School. This is written very late in life because Shakespeare did die in 1616. So this is one of the last ones. So Othello is called a Moor, and what a Moor is a term for a medieval Muslim, and these were from Morocco, northern Africa, but even Sicily. There were known to be lots of Moors in Sicily. And during Shakespeare's time, there were Moroccan delegates that came to Elizabethan courts, and this picture here that you see is a Moroccan ambassador that served in Queen Elizabeth court. Ethnically, they are dark complected. Often Othello is cast as a black man. Interestingly, this is not this was not done until 1833, the first time that he was cast as a black man. Before then, it was more of a Middle Eastern type of look. However, to this day, there's no clear scholarly consensus on ethnically his race, like what his exact skin color would be. But what is important is that he does have dark complexion, that he is not white. So this does have source material. A lot of you guys had asked in the intro lecture, where did Shakespeare get his stuff? And this one comes from a play called Uno Capitino Moro, which was written in 1565. What is interesting about this is that it's very much the same plot, except the female lead, Desdemona, is the only named character. The rest of them are just called the Moor, the lieutenant, the senator. And what is very, very interesting is that during Shakespeare's time, no English translation existed. So someone must have verbally passed on this story and these characters to Shakespeare / the collaborators or writers that he would have worked with in order to get this story done. This is set in Venice, Italy. A lot of Shakespeare's plays are set in Italy. The Romeo and Juliet is one that you guys are familiar with, that it was set in Italy. And in this play, in the beginning, Othello is a general for the Venetian army. And so here's Italy, and then Venice is right here. All of this over here is water. Okay. And the other half of the play is set in Cyprus, a small island outside of Turkey. In this play, the Venetian army is at war with the Turkish Ottomans. It is a naval war. It is fought on ships at the sea. And part of the action sends them to Cyprus for the purpose of war and keeps them there. And in many ways, this isolation from what is known from Venice and this much more comfortable area kind of adds to the madness. So to give you an idea here, here's Italy, and all the way over here is Cyprus. So there's Turkey, who they had fought, and they're very isolated and very much on their own. A lot of the important themes in this, again, the tragic hero themes, as we read in Oedipus Rex. Othello is set up to be a tragic hero. His tragic flaw is extremely obvious. It is jealousy. Horrible, bone-crushing, gut-wrenching jealousy. And this is why I like this play so much, is because this is such a relatable tragic flaw, because who has not been jealous at some point in time? He is of high stature. He is a general in the army. His downfall brings about the downfall of other people. This is a Shakespearean tragedy. People are going to die, and all of this together elicits pity. I find, a lot of you were not very sympathetic for Oedipus, but if you don't feel bad for Othello, I don't know, I may have to question you, because I feel really bad for Othello. I think out of all of Shakespeare's tragic heroes, he's the one I feel feel the worse for. This also brings up some very common themes. During Shakespeare's time, there was like an ongoing theme, an ongoing trope of soldiers being able to love. And in some cases, this was done with comic effect, that like almost kind of like a rom-com type of theme, that soldiers are bumbling fools and they're not good at wooing women and things like that. But this is kind of brought into a much more tragic light, that Shakespeare, or that Othello is a general in the army, and he has this beautiful wife, Desdemona. But by virtue of his job, because he is a soldier, that he's just not meant to have her. There's also the theme of fearing the other, fearing someone who is not like you. And because of that, a lot of people will read this as a racist play, and we'll talk about that on the next slide here, about whether or not this is a racist play. I find this very interesting because Othello is not the only character who is jealous, and there's a lot of analysis that can be done about the motivation of jealousy and whether or not those motivations are justified. And there's a lot of themes of light and dark, and what light and dark can symbolically mean. So we have literally skin color is brought up, that Othello is dark complected and Desdemona is light complected. But there's also themes of good and evil, and honesty versus lies. So let's talk about this here with the racism. So there are characters in this who blatantly say racist things. They are racist and they say racist things. You can't miss it. And during Shakespeare's time, there were stereotypes of black men, and these stereotypes persisted, my goodness, all the way up into the 1960s in America, that black men were hypersexual, that they're just like these lustful creatures, that they're savage and they cannot be controlled, and that even more frighteningly, they're polluters of white chastity. I know a lot of you read To Kill a Mockingbird last year in 8th grade, and if you remember what Tom Robinson went through, these themes and this stereotype of a black man came up in the trial against Tom. But what is interesting is that Shakespeare writes Othello in such a way that he doesn't actually fit this stereotype until someone makes him. He doesn't become this savage destroyer of white pure beauty until someone warps him and twists him and does this to him. But the play does have like a history of racism a little bit, because of the fact that people have played Othello in blackface. And I will show you pictures of blackface. Blackface is very bad. Don't do it, ever. If you're a white person, don't do it. Okay? Along the same lines, yellow face for white people playing Asian characters, red face for white people playing Native American characters. Don't do it. I'll show you some pictures of what I'm talking about. There's a few symbols throughout this. Remember that symbols are often used to represent abstract concepts. There's a strawberry handkerchief in this. So it is literally a strawberry handkerchief, but it also represents so much more to the characters who have it. It's a little handkerchief with strawberries embroidered on it. And there's a song that characters sing called Willow. And when we get to it, there's great significance about who sings the song Willow and what happens to them when they sing it. A lot of recurring images and structures that you see, these are known as motifs. You'll see characters make references to animals. You'll also, again, see this image of sight and blindness and what that means compared to knowledge. And there's a lot of reference to hell and demons as well. So there's some important Shakespeare terms that you need to know. You're going to have a quiz on these. Hopefully these terms are not entirely foreign to you, that you would have heard them when you read Romeo and Juliet last year. So a monologue, pretty standard one. A monologue is a long speech by one actor, and a monologue can be given in front of other characters. However, a soliloquy is slightly different. A soliloquy is a monologue, but the character is alone on stage. Shakespeare would use soliloquies for the characters to reveal their true feelings or true ideas, and these are often spoken directly to the audience. And some of the best soliloquies are given by the character Iago in Othello. So know the difference between a monologue and a soliloquy. An aside, however, is a short piece of dialogue that is spoken in the presence of other characters, but it may only be meant for one character to hear or just the audience to hear. And you just kind of have to have a suspension of belief that no one else would have heard those things. Typically in a Shakespeare text now, these are going to be marked for you. Blank verse is unrhymed iambic pentameter. Shakespeare would often use this type of blank verse for higher class characters, that those who are of more noble, higher rank would speak in this type of poetry. What is iambic pentameter? Iambic pentameter is 10 beats per line, with each foot is stressed or unstressed. So those are 2 syllables. So you have 5 of these. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Okay, so that's 10 beats, and you can, if you force it, you can then hear, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Okay. Prose, however, is regular old speech. Okay, it does not contain meter and is often used for lower class characters. And it's very, very interesting how Shakespeare uses prose in blank verse, with Iago in particular in this scene. So in this play. So make note of when Iago is speaking in blank verse and when Iago is speaking in prose. You should know these two. A protagonist is the main character of a work of fiction, and an antagonist is the secondary character of a work of fiction who incites a change in the protagonist. Notice that I say secondary main character. It doesn't necessarily have to be a supporting character, because what is very interesting about this is that Othello is the protagonist. He's the main character of this work of fiction, of this play, and he has to undergo some sort of change. Our antagonist is Iago. The play is called Othello, but Iago has more lines. It is very much Iago's play, and that's why I just find this so fascinating. The last term I have for you guys is foils. Foils are 2 characters whose differences and their similarities are actually meant to highlight one another. So a really good example of this is Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter. These are both kids who come from long lines of wizarding families. They are both the same age. They are both qualified for Slytherin. However, their differences in their personalities, one is snobby and cruel to other people, and the other one is kind and endearing to other people. That those similarities and differences constantly bounce off one another and highlight the differences in the other people. So we have 2 characters in here who are meant to be foils, and hopefully you will figure out who those 2 characters are supposed to be. I'll tell you, in Romeo and Juliet, the foils would have been Tybalt and Mercutio. So think about those similarities and differences that Tybalt and Mercutio would have had. So I wanted to show you real quick on the Pinterest page. Othello was last played by a black man on the big screen by Lawrence Fishburne, and this is Kenneth Branagh. Kenneth Branagh does a lot of Shakespeare movies. If you hear of a Kenneth Branagh movie, go see it. It's probably going to be pretty good. Fun fact, he directed the first Thor movie. Very surprising to a lot of people because he's such a Shakespeare dude. But we will watch clips of this in class. This is what I mean by blackface. This is a white man who has painted his face black in order to portray Othello. This is Laurence Olivier, who is a highly respected actor, and the date on this is 1965. So this is fairly recent. Maggie Smith played Desdemona in this production of Othello. If you remember Maggie Smith, she is Professor McGonagall in the Harry Potter movies. If you want to look through here, there's some really fun pictures of Shakespeare-related stuff, and I wanted to show you this in particular. These are the 2 main actors from a production that I saw in Indianapolis in 2000. That was pretty life-changing for me. This was my first professional play that I ever saw, and it was a Shakespeare play, and I was just wowed the whole time. It was so good. And it just made me truly just fall head over heels in love with theater, and really validated my love for Shakespeare because it was such an amazing production. I had a couple pictures from that show in here. There's a couple other production things also. And then if you think you've heard the name Iago, look at this joke from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I guess that's your new best friend now, Santiago. Emphasis on the Iago backstabber. I'm surprised you've read Othello. What the hell is Othello? I'm calling you the parrot from Aladdin. Ha 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 ha. All right. See you guys later.